Okay, we're live, allegedly. I like to double check because last time, or no, one of the first times I did this, oh yeah, we're on. Okay, sweet. When I like shared my screen, it made the screen black, and then I just kept going and didn't know that my screen was black. And so, yeah, that was a fun like 15 minutes before I finally figured out why my phone kept going off. It's because people on were like, Jason, your screen, like no one can see anything. No one can see anything that you're doing. I was doing a huddle walkthrough on how to make huddle highlights. So I had to do another one. Anyway, all right. So we are live. We are wanted to walk through these alleged proposed new rules. I got these. I got this from several different college coaches. This apparently came through the AVCA, and so we're going to walk through all of that. But the first thing that I wanted to mention and throw out there, I don't even know if you guys heard, um, my trolling on Instagram was not the only news of the week. Taylor wasn't around for that, but Michelle got to see all of that.
It was fun.
Uh, I made the gross generalization that maybe you should get rid of your Instagram account if you're not using it, and people didn't like me saying that apparently, so it was fun. But outside of that, I don't even know if you guys heard there was a federal court in Colorado that put an injunction on the NCAA and said, no, you do have to allow all of these athletes that just graduated a fifth year. And so the portal is apparently opening today, and they can like apply to get in, and it's open for like a week. I haven't actually seen any information about it. I've only talked to like two or three college coaches about it because they were like, Jason, do you have anybody that still wants to play? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody, but I haven't seen any actual like news articles or clippings on it or anything like that. So
I'm going to look right now.
Yeah, I heard the fifth year thing. Like they can come back now. But that's what I was wondering is, are they going to open the portal? Because this could make some changes for people.
because where are you gonna go?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
practice has already started. That's
practice already
crazy.
started. Media day already happened.
Yeah,
We're like jerseys are passed out.
jerseys are out.
Someone's gonna give up their jersey number to a incoming portal kid like 4 days before season starts. I don't
Do you
I
think
don't
that
see
many
it
kids will do it? I feel like most of those athletes already have jobs lined up and stuff at this point. Maybe.
volleyball for sure. I think some of the other sports you're probably gonna get a little bit more traffic. Um, volleyball, I feel like it'd be very few. Um,
And I
I
bet most of
also
these kids haven't played since December.
Yes,
Right?
and they haven't trained, right?
Yeah,
Like unless you are going into like the volleyball draft or whatever, or any sport really, like unless you're playing pro or amateur level, something like that, you haven't trained in months, and which I don't know if you're still better than everybody, maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know.
or maybe like some beach kids might come for an indoor season. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Um, I just from a uh, I don't know anything about the judicial system, or I know very little about the judicial system. I can't understand how a federal judge in Colorado can just tell the NCAA, "Hey, you have to give everyone an extra year." Right? Like I don't that doesn't make any sense. There's no lawsuit that I've heard of yet. At least that wasn't a part of anything that I saw. Um, and I just like it would be like a judge saying, "Hey, now there's four strikes and four balls." Or now volleyball gets four touches. Like you can't just decide things out of nothing. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm confused about that.
This says the NCAA president, Charlie Baker, blasted the ruling.
Good,
Yeah.
as
But
he
I
should.
guess he made that because there were specific cases that were going on that they were allowing certain people to take their fifth year. So there's a couple of basketball players in Ohio, and then UCLA guard and Texas guard. They were all given fifth years, just like individual players. So I don't know. That's what this article says.
Interesting. Well, that's why we're going to this fifth year model anyway, is because no admin, no paperwork, like just cut it all down and make it really, really simple. No more 25-year-old quarterbacks. So we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I don't understand it, but it is what it is. So okay, you guys have these two sheets. Um, okay, a little bit of context. So maybe everyone, the two people that are watching, can know and understand. But everyone else will come back and watch this if they're curious. The we've wanted to change from June 15th for a while, and you, Taylor, most recently on the coaching side, can probably attest to that. The June 15th model did not work. It was never going to work. I tried to say that 6 years ago when we first started doing this. I was like, this is a bad idea. It's not going to do what you want it to do. But it just, for lots of different reasons, it didn't quite have the impact or the effect that they thought it would. And once we, like, part of the June 15th idea was to limit transfers. If we force kids to make decisions later, then they won't transfer, which that was never part of the transfer issue, or maybe a very little part of the transfer issue. But that was the whole idea. And now with the transfer portal, like June 15th just doesn't make sense as a concept. So the new rules kind of have been in the works for a while. Volleyball finally got its own subcommittee, and so I know several of the coaches that have been in this room talking about this, and I've talked to them a bunch. I I don't love most of this for lots of reasons, but we'll kind of go through it. So in general, what we're talking about doing is basically pushing everything a year back, right? So no more no more summer between your sophomore and junior year. Now all of your recruiting is going to happen the end of your junior high school season into your senior year of high school. And the idea behind this is they want athletes verbally committing and signing. They want the distance or the timing between when they sign and when they commit to be as short as possible. And so this was what they came up with. So junior year become the main recruiting focus. First permitted contact is two-way communication opening March 1st of the junior 17's year. So your junior year 17's club season, March 1st is when March 1st becomes the new June 15th, right? With some variables. The kind of the two-way communication thing, and this comes up several times in this document, that there's no one-way communication. So one of the things that they have talked about and has been discussed is, well, what if an athlete just calls a coach? Like, can we do that? Right? But then lots of college coaches push back on that because they don't want to have to go through someone like us or a recruiting coordinator at a club to schedule or contact athletes, or have the athlete contact them, right? It becomes, I don't know, messy. And then they're worried about gatekeeping, which I've always said, like, regardless of what rules you put in place, like, not that I gatekeep, because I don't, but there will be people that are gatekeeping athletes and keeping them from talking to college coaches. Like, that's going to happen regardless of the rules you put in place. So you can't legislate that out of the way. Any thoughts on that? No? But yeah, two-way communication, no middlemen. Coaches communicate directly with prospect and family. No one-way communication. A protected 2-month window before offers and commitments. Okay, so this is one of the parts, so I've, just so you guys know, like, I've had time to come off my blood pressure level that was very, very high in Indianapolis about all these rules, and so I'm a little more chill about it. But I was very, I told several people what I thought about these new rules when I was in Indianapolis. Protected 2-month window before offers and commitments. So basically, March 1st through April 30th, I'll just read it. Two-way communication, visits and evaluations, but no offers or commitments. And this says relationships first, decisions second, which just cracks me up that that's in there. Like, it's so it's bogus. Can we be real about that? Like relationships first. We got over that a long time ago. As soon as we stopped taking official visits, as soon as we stopped letting kids take official visits or visits in general, relationships went out the window. I mean, there's still a few coaches that are honest about that, but yeah. Anyway, I think that's funny. So we've got 2 months, March and April, March 1st through April 30th, to get on the phone, talk to athletes, talk to college coaches, go on visits. Um, and then May 1st, basically, and that's the next line, offer day. May 1st, junior year, offers and commitments open on that date, um, before summer and nationals. So we're going to have 2 crazy months before we get to the new June 15th, basically. Um, and so that I have said to several people, if you were trying to figure out a worse process than June 15th, we figured it out with this one. Like it's not going to be any different than what happens on June 15th. And like I said, it's probably going to be worse because now we've had 2 months to talk, right? Like if you aren't ready to make a decision on May 1st when those offers come, then you're going to get left in the dust. I just like it took us several years to get to the point where we were offering kids. Majority of Division I coaches started offering kids and only giving them like hours to make a decision. And with this, it's going to be minutes. It's going to be, you got to say yes before you get on the phone or before you get off the phone, right? Like, so I don't know. I don't like that. Um, Anything? Chime in, thoughts, guys?
Uh, so I see what they're trying to do here, right? Is like
Yes.
for
Yeah.
June 15th, like it was all of these kids are getting offers, and it's like, well, I've never even been near campus, and I need to make a decision within
Yeah.
3 hours. So I
Yeah.
see what they're doing, but I don't see how this is going to stop anyone from saying like, hey, we will offer you on
Yeah. 100%.
May 1st. It's not official,
Yeah.
but we will. So
Yeah.
let's like verbally on the phone say yes, but you can't post anything because we're gonna get in trouble. So I feel like there's just gonna be a lot of like behind the scene gray area as there is now for
As there is
June
now.
15th.
Yeah.
So and then it's gonna be 2 full months of that. And then we'll get to it, but I don't know how this now relates to nationals and our like
Right.
tournament
Yeah,
schedule with all this.
that's an interesting. We'll get to that on the next page of the calendar.
Yeah.
There's a few hints in there that I'm kind of like, how are you guys making this happen? That'll be really really interesting. And to your point, one of the things that I've at least hoped with this is that we don't take 20 steps back. So when we first started doing this June 15th this way, for the first few years, it was a lot of gray area, right? Like a lot of, well, you're not supposed to say this. And I was getting emails from like the LSU staff at the time that had, hey Jason, just wanted to, say hi, and we are generally interested in so and so. And the words generally interested were in like size 45 font and everything else was 12. And like that was getting crapped on by other college coaches. Oh, you're not allowed to do that either, right? So there was this like we almost across the board there was, we're not allowed to give information, we're not allowed to talk to you, like all that kind of stuff. And we've since, over the last 3 years, maybe 3 or 4, really since COVID, there's been a lot better communication with college coaches and people like us, which I think is only helpful to it's beneficial to the athletes, right? So one of the things that I've hoped in this new model is, because now we're going to go through this process and they're going to evaluate these athletes for 2 years before they talk to them, that we're still going to like be able to give information, to where when that March 1st communication day comes, like these athletes have some ideas going into it. Because I think that would be the worst thing, is for there to be like no information and then just fire hose everybody like that. That'll just make it worse. I'm sure there's going to be some college coaches that take that approach. But what's going to be best for everybody is for there to be as much communication as possible. Because just think about visits, right? Like this 2 months that you have to get on the phone, also make visits. This is the two biggest months for qualifiers during the club season. So these kids don't have free weekends, you know?
Yeah. It's the
Um,
busiest 2 months of the year.
yeah.
And I'm also seeing it from like college coaches where like previously they would spend all of spring watching 16-year-olds.
Hmm.
All the spring, we're judging, we're rating, we're deciding who we like. June 15th happens. Nationals, you can kind of sit on some courts that it's like, okay, I have an offer out. But now college coaches, it's like you have a little bit of time to evaluate, probably the year before too, but a little bit of time to evaluate. Then I can talk to these kids for 2 months. And now if I'm not sitting at their court for these 2 months, are they going to accept my offer in May? So now I feel like there's more like babysitting for college coaches to just like, I need to go watch all these kids for 2 full months, but then I also need to start my list for next year because I only have a month to evaluate them before I can talk to them. So now I'm like, where are you spending your time as a college coach? Are you evaluating as much, or now is it just like I need to show love to all these kids that I want to offer next month and I can only talk to right now?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you get on if I'm an athlete and we have a phone call this week and I'm going to Triple Crown, or not Triple Crown, I wouldn't go Triple Crown in March. Where would I go? Salt Lake City. And I go to Salt Lake City and you don't come watch me, then I'm like, you're not interested. And yeah, it's just, you're right. That's a good point. Michelle, did you have something?
No.
Okay. This is
You know
Michelle's
how I
favorite
feel.
thing.
You know how I feel about this.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. Okay, so the only other, like, there's a little bit of new things for volleyball in here. 27 full shutdown days, a 15-day summer shutdown plus a 12-day winter dead period, up from 19 and whatever. So like we actually have some complete shutdown days on the volleyball schedule to where there's no contact, no calls, no visits. My understanding is you're not even allowed to email. College coaches aren't. Which someone told me, Jason, we're the only sport that doesn't have any of these, and I just went, well, why do you need them? Like, just choose not to work, right? That's always been which is what we do, which is what they do, right? Like they choose not to respond to text messages, they choose not to respond to emails. So yeah, I think like with June 15th, it's so important to get your target list of schools like narrowed down really, really early. And I think even more with this. Hold on, we actually have a question in the chat. I forgot to open that. Or do we?
It was off the Colorado stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Cool. Yeah, like I said, I didn't dive into it a ton. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see how it all goes. I feel like a lot of people made a big deal out of it, and I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Um, okay, so here's the calendar. Quiet period in January. Again, we're back on that. Um, On-campus visits only, no off-campus evaluation, and this is right after the portal opens or portal closes, basically, or portal might still be open in January. So that sort of makes sense. Okay, evaluation in February, right? So you get, like you said, Taylor, you get a month to, if you weren't, like, you as a college coach, you better be locked into your kids that you want in February. I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot of room for you to add a ton of athletes to evaluate. Um,
And the
so
last time, as a college coach, the last time they were allowed to evaluate you was September, October, November, which is high school season, which
yeah, which you're
besides the
not going
state
out
of
anyway.
Texas is just horrible volleyball. And then before that, the last time they were allowed to see you was May 30th, which right now
Yeah,
there's no tournaments in May. So
yeah,
that's like you have 1 month in February to be like, all right, I saw you a year ago and I
lock
hope
in.
you're still good.
Hope you're still really good. Yeah, right. So which for a tournament like Triple Crown, even just adds more stress, pressure, um, the importance of those early tournaments in February. I mean, that just is going to add more to it. Um, okay, so protected 2 month window. I don't know what the word protected means. They don't give a definition in there. Two-way communication with athletes. So March 1st phone calls, can go on visits, um, no one way, no third party. I know it's a jab at people like us. I get it. But official, unofficial visits, evaluations allowed, no offers or commitments till May 1st. Now, I have said to several mid-major Division One schools, um, I've said you guys are going to have to flush out money for official visits because I think like, and I've tried to push back on this in the past with families like, well, Jason, if they're really interested, they'll offer an official visit. I said, well, not always, right? Like unofficial is still just as good depending on traveling and flying and stuff like that. But the way this is set up now, I honestly like I'll warn college coaches, you better flush out the money for an official visit. And that's everybody. D2, Division One, like you really want these kids to come on campus for these 2 months, like you better pay them. Or you better pay for it. Sorry, not pay them. No one's giving cash under the
I'll
table.
do
That
that
never
too.
happens. It's not a thing. Nope. Um, but no, that's going to be a huge issue. I think I was talking to a coach about it. I said, like, you're going to have to pay for these official visits for these 2 months. However many kids you're trying to get on campus, you're going to have to pay for them. And if that's 8 kids, you better figure it out with your budget. Because otherwise they're not going to come, right? Like, I don't know. You better be locked into who you're interested in. Okay, May. Then we got May 1st, contact evaluation period during the spring events. Coaches may attend 17s, 18 nationals. Okay, so this is what you were talking about, Taylor. Do we have 17s and 18s nationals at the same time now? Is that what we're planning on doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, right now we have nothing in May, right? Like that's usually like
Yeah.
clubs shut down for like a week. We have like maybe one local tournament, but now this is a really big period where we need to make evaluations, decisions, see you guys, and there's nothing. So that's gonna have to be like a full club rewire of tournaments.
Yeah.
And 18s nationals is usually in May,
Thought it was at
end
the
of
end of
April.
April. Yeah,
Okay.
Mm,
maybe like to May 1st or May 2nd, but I think it's right at the
Okay. So, and this is one of those things where like USAV, because of the ACA, AVCA kind of links NCAA and the AVC and the USAV together. Like this might be something that they've are trying to figure out as far as get 17s have their national tournament earlier because of what comes next. So that if you're not committed, if I haven't evaled, like they can go actually watch these athletes. Um, so having May not be a quiet period is going to be a shift, I feel like. But
Now, I
it's
do
going to
like
have to,
this from an athlete's perspective. I like this because this makes your club season now probably end at the end of May. So now you can actually have summer, you can
beginning.
actually go to camps, you can actually like maybe have, vacation
yeah,
before high school starts up. So it's kind of nice for the kids, but yeah, I don't know how this is possible now for this next year. I'm assuming AAUs and nationals already has dates out, right?
Sounds good.
for, and that was one thing that I didn't get to go check to see if we
I'm,
had stuff
I'm
scheduled
looking
now
it up
already.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle, let us know. Um, Okay, so potentially moving 17s nationals with 18s earlier in May, so these college coaches can go watch. Again, they got to figure that out with USAV. Camps allowed under current legislation related to Memorial Day start date for camps. So we can start camps the end of May, right? Um, but then what happens in June and July? So with this new legislation, there's no third party camps. So no spending a week in Texas at all of the Dallas Club and Houston and San Antonio college camps because you're not allowed to for Division One. Um, Now I can just say, based on some of the athletes that I know just got committed in the 2028 class, where those third party camps were huge for them because it put them in front of college coaches otherwise they wouldn't ever get in front of. Like the opportunity for these athletes to get in front of like 20 or 30 college coaches versus going to these like one-off camps in June and July. It's huge. And and if he hops on later, I'll bring this up with him too. But Brandon Rosenthal is always the example that I use for this. When he was at Lipscomb, I could ask athletes, "Hey, I think like you should reach out to Lipscomb. Like that's a good fit for you." And the athlete will be like, "What's Lipscomb? Never heard of it." But then that's those same athletes that say that when they get in the gym at because Brandon came and worked the Skyline camp every year. When they get in the gym with Brandon, they go, I think I want to go to Lipscomb, right? Like it changes their perspective when they actually get to work one on one, face to face with these college coaches. It makes a huge difference. And so I think take that away is a terrible idea. I don't like and I'll get some heat for this, but like I feel like college coaches are whining about the third party camps. Just let them do it. If you don't want to go, don't go. If some club is gatekeeping you and you don't have access to an athlete, like it's not going to change um, when they don't have a third party camp, right? Like it's they're still going to gatekeep you. Star, because some clubs are like that, right? Some directors, some club coaches are just that's the way they are. But now you've got June and July to where you can actually go to camp. You don't have to try to front load everything before June 15th. So you have a little bit more time. But um, is this camp, to your point, I think Taylor, you said this, like now at this June and July camp, I'm interacting with the juniors. I'm interacting with the next class because I committed all my kids on May 1st, probably, right? I mean, that timeline wise, that makes the most sense. So if you're about to be a senior, like going into these June and July camps, they better still be recruiting somebody and not already have someone committed. So, any questions? Anybody have any questions? No. Someone said something about the, okay. If you guys have questions, if you're watching, we're just talking about it. So if you have questions, let us know. And then full shutdown July, end of July to August 3rd. No contact, no calls, nothing. It's like it says 2 weeks to give them an opportunity to get ready for the start of fall season, I guess. So, like, if you're not committed by July 20th, right? Like that's now the only thing I'll say because I sometimes I come off too harsh and not everyone gets my sarcasm. Um, one thing that I've said about the fifth year legislation is that I think we'll see more athletes commit 18's year. Like I think it's going to open up a window for those seniors. And I think the same thing about this. Like I'm very intrigued and curious to see over the next couple years as we do this or something similar, right? Like I'll probably say this again because I don't know if everyone was on when we started. Like this is proposed, this is potential, this is alleged recruiting changes. Could be some, could be all, could be none of this, and they redo it all together. Um, but um, I think that this potentially like going into your 18s club season, I think we'll see a lot more athletes kind of hang on as there's going to be more opportunities because one of the several things that I don't like about this, and I'm kind of curious as to y'all's thoughts on this, on how this will play out, but because now this date has gotten pushed back for Division One, and everyone follows Division One, like Division Two, right? Division Three. Now you've got all of these levels, Division One, Two, and Three, basically on the same timeline. Like it used to be, Division Three is not recruiting athletes. Division Three schools aren't committing 2028 athletes in July. They're just not. Um, and only two of like the Ivy League schools are really done with their 2028 class by now. All the rest of the Ivy League schools are still going, right? So, but with this process, because we're now a year later, now I have more transcripts. Now I have more whatever, and all of the Division One athletes that these Division Two schools would have gone after, now they're hanging around waiting for Division One schools, and so now Division One, Two, and Three are all on the same kind of recruiting calendar, recruiting schedule, because we're not going to see, like, let's be real, we're not going to see a ton of Division Two kids commit before May 1st. There might be a few, but probably not very many. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it actually works out better for Division 2 than it does for Division 1. I mean, because I think those 2 months are going to be so frantic for kids, and they're gonna, when May 1st comes and nobody calls them and they don't know what to do, these D2 schools who've been lurking around in the background and be like, hey, you're not
Well,
committed on May 1st, so now we want you, and if you want to come here, you can come here.
and uh, so Division One is supposedly supposed to pass this 5-year legislation this week. It's supposed to happen this week, is my understanding. They are not, from what I've been told, going to adopt this recruiting calendar, which I think is good. So Division Two schools, all junior year, high school and club season 17s, like they can be on the phone with a
Right.
lot of these athletes. And so like I again back to my point about how like you need to be locked into schools that are interested in you like in February. Otherwise you're like if you're hoping for these Division 1 schools and they don't call, meanwhile you've passed on all the Division 2 schools, like those schools are going to focus on the athletes that are interested in them. So you just right, hopefully you don't miss out.
I
But
also
I
feel
don't
like
like
there's not enough time. I mean, there's a lot more time, but a lot of athletes don't know what schools are interested in them. Unless there's people like us, obviously, but a lot of athletes don't use the recruiting service, so they don't know. So I think a lot of this is gonna be kind of a wake-up call if they do end up passing this.
or they think like we run into this all the time. They a
They'll
family
play
thinks the
Power
camp
Five.
invite, yeah, the camp invite they got from Baylor means that Baylor's interested, and it's
Yeah.
like no, that's not. Sorry. Um, and so there's going to be certainly a level of that, but I think D2 schools, a lot of them are going to be in a pretty good spot going into this March, April, May system, potentially. We'll see.
I think
Um,
even a D1 perspective, like pushing the calendar back is helpful because I mean, all of these schools are just counting that, like, I hope this 15-year-old will be really good for us in 5 years. And then you have no idea. I mean, from the time this 28 class commits, we have how many transfer portals before they actually get to the school. So
yeah,
that's
two
that's
big
so
ones.
many
Yeah.
times that, like, well, I think I still need you. So there's like,
Yeah.
and I think this goes back to your point where like the signing day gets a lot closer. That now there's like a whole year that goes by that's like, well, it's still a verbal commitment, but they just got another transfer, and you just never know what can happen. So I think pushing it back is helpful for that. And then hopefully you get a more like real sense of the athlete too once they're a little bit older. But
Special guest,
What's
Brandon
up?
Rosenthal. What's up,
How are you
Brandon?
guys?
Good man. How are you?
Great, really good. It's an interesting, obviously, time of year for me. Just this is kind of the first go round where I'm not prepping for
Crazy.
the season and whatnot. So it's I don't know, it's exciting. Again, people continually ask. Um, if I miss it, I don't miss it necessarily. I feel very confident that the decision I made was the one that I needed to make. But I am excited for not only Lipscomb, but just to kind of see the college volleyball season.
Yeah. Have you been able to follow? I don't. Did you just hop on? Were you able to follow what we've been
I
talking about
did,
with the new schedule? Okay.
I did.
Um,
So I apologize about that, but
no, it's okay.
wanted to kind of reach out to you guys.
Yeah. No, that's thanks for hopping on. Just so anybody watching on Brandon, most recently was at Lipscomb for how long? 150 years? How long were you there for?
25 years.
25. Man, okay. That's still a long
I
time.
know.
Good for you. It's great. Um, but yeah, so I shared this story earlier because we're talking about the potential alleged new recruiting rules. One of the things that they're apparently trying to do is get rid of third party camps. So no Skyline camp, no TAV camp, no spending a week in Texas doing all of these different camps. And one of the things that I've said is this hurts, in my opinion, schools like Lipscomb, other mid-major Division One schools, that's their typically their opportunity to get in front of a bunch of athletes, and the face-to-face connection, right? Like is so important, and interacting with athletes is so important. And I've said this about you, and you probably heard me say it, maybe you haven't, but and I'll repeat myself. But if I were to go to an athlete and say, "Hey, you need to be interested in Lipscomb, like you should reach out to them, like they'd be a good fit for you," the response is, "What's Lipscomb?" Right? Like, I've never heard of it. Where is that? No idea. But then that same athlete goes to a third party camp like at Skyline and works with you face to face. All of a sudden, I get a text that goes, "Hey, Jason, I think I'm interested in Lipscomb." Right? Like, so like that impact I think is huge. And for you guys as a mid-major Division I school to miss out on that, I think is could potentially be detrimental. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, and you're spot on. We saw a value in college coaches camps really early, and so we did everything we could to get to as many as we could, and obviously get invited to some of the more higher profile ones, and that took some time, but I think once we got in, it became a thing where we really brought our personalities to the forefront, and it really opened a lot of doors as far as recruiting. And you're exactly correct. I felt that, even as June 15th came about, I guess 5, 6 years ago, we were a part of conversations that we normally wouldn't have been a part of. And, I think ultimately what we were trying to do was just explain who we were and also give another option to quote unquote, something else other than Power Four. And, we're very fortunate because Lipscomb is located in Nashville, Tennessee. So we knew we had something in that. And it was just a matter of, I thought we had fantastic facilities. We were competing against top 25 schools. We were routinely in the top 50. So, I think once people started to dig into it, it was like, wow, okay, wait, this is a real option. And so, I think what I stress through the recruiting process is if you're making the decision just for your 24 hours on Instagram, and I always kind of joked about that, like you yourself get 24 hours on Instagram. And once that 24-hour period is up, there's a next set of people that get their 24 hours. And so, unfortunately, that's about all that people remember is 24 hours. And so, the algorithm of social media is like, there's so much new coming that you can't go back 2 or 3 days. And so, I always joked, but I think there's probably more seriousness or more reality to this than the joke itself. Is like, if you are making the decision for that, I don't know, 750 likes or, 300 comments, then you are at some point going to be disappointed with your decision, because it's really hard. Collegiate athletics is extremely hard, and it's more and more of a business today than it was even just a year ago, and for obvious reasons. There's a lot of money to be made, and it doesn't matter where you're at, a school like Lipscomb or Nebraska. I mean, you look at what I was reading what Bergen Riley just signed with Red Bull. It's a real thing. There's for her to stay another year instead of going and playing pro, there's a real decision. I have no idea what she will decide at that point, but the other side, there was never that decision before. Of course, I'm going to go pro because I can make money, and now the collegiate side is wait, yeah,
might be able
so,
to make more.
but yeah. Yeah, exactly. But back to what you were talking about, the college coaches camp, and it was very pure. Obviously, there was a recruiting element, but the way we approached it was we're always going to be some of these coaches that are going to work. We don't see this as easy money or this, just this chance to meet new individuals like, I want to go and teach, I want to go and learn. And so, I had very, kind of regimented conversations with our staff, like, please, this is so important. We have a
Huge.
reputation that we're going to go and work these camps and be, people that aren't just there to be seen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What?
I think it is tricky. I know, Jason, there was a couple kids, in the past, I won't name names, but that you had mentioned we had had chances to work with them in said camps. And there was one recently where we weren't even looking for that position, but because of that interaction within the camps, I remember asking you about them, and it really went down this beautiful kind of road of, I think this is somebody you should really talk to, and on both sides. And I think it worked out for that person and for Lipscomb as well. And again, I realize now I've stepped away, but I couldn't tell you, like, it was real, and the relationship piece of it, was really brokered out of those camps.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if those camps morph into like D2, D3 camps, or if just clubs decide to get rid of them altogether. Because
Well,
that
I think
that'll be the interesting thing.
the hard part for me was talking to, the network of coaches that were in the top 10. They felt so pulled because there's only so many days, there's so many camps. If I say yes to them and I say no to them, what you see what kind of position that puts me in, as far as, do I like them, or it's hard. And so
It gets
saying
taken
no,
personally, and it shouldn't, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah,
So saying no became the answer. And so then, instead of them wanting to say no, the easiest way to go about it is, hey, this would be very helpful if we couldn't do it, and then it was like, well, wait, but there's a whole group of coaches, or there's, let's say there's 350 Division I schools. You're talking about 10 to 15, and yet there's this whole other side. So I do think it would be fairly detrimental to the recruiting process. And the other side of it too is clubs made a lot of money off of these.
that's maybe an argument we could have, but um,
Okay.
I know there's well, yeah, I've talked to several club directors over the years about the college camps. Some of them potentially make a little bit of money. I don't necessarily think that's the case in a lot of them. Depends on where you go, I think. But there was a club that I don't think paid coaches this year.
I will say this: there is no other sport uh, in college athletics that has what volleyball has, where
No, yeah,
competing coaches would work together in a 2 to 3 day period. Like, I remember talking with basketball coaches or soccer coaches or baseball coaches, and they're like, "Wait, you're doing what? Like, with who? Like, how is that a real thing? Like, there, it just wouldn't happen." So I do believe there's so much good and value on both sides. Obviously we were recruiting, but also from a consumer standpoint, to be able to work with 15, 20 really high level coaches, whether it's head coaches, assistant coaches that really know what they're talking about, it was pretty special. And not only that, I think if you had some coaches that weren't necessarily as engaged, the consumer was going to see that.
yeah. The personality comes out for sure.
100%.
Um, okay, so we've got institutional camps, June and July, third party camps disappearing again, apparently. Uh, Shutdown period in July and August. Quiet period through all of August. D1 practice competitions begin. On campus official, unofficial visits. So you can still, if you're still recruiting those kids that are seniors, right? Through the fall, you can still have them on campus. So that process is potentially still happening in the fall in August, probably for more mid-major Division One programs than at the top, but it's still going to happen. Um, Division One competition season, off-campus evaluation permitted, two-way communication through September and November, and then December is a quiet period because we've got the portal opens again. Again, that's something that's not on here, and it's something that I know I talked to several college coaches about. Is are we doing one portal windows? Are we doing two portal windows? And when is that window going to be? Because I think that plays into some of this as well. Just like with June 15th, there's been this imaginary line on the calendar for college coaches to go, well, if we don't get someone before this date, then we'll just wait on the transfer portal. And it's transfer portal, transfer portal, transfer portal. And so that's the rundown. Some of the why, I think we've talked a little bit about the why. I think one thing that I didn't mention was, well, I think there's two things. I had several not great conversations with some college coaches about this. I could tell there was a lot of, well, this is just the way to do it, and that's what we're doing. I'm like, well, I don't like that argument, so I need you to actually give me some insight. But I had one good conversation with a coach, and part of what he said was, this is what the top 25 schools believes we need to be doing in order to progress the sport past where we are now, right? Like volleyball has been on the incline, the increase of revenue, of time on ESPN. And so they feel like this is what is going to help continue to grow the sport and make the sport better, to make more money. Because when you're on TV, you make money. Like that's the whole thing. So they feel very strongly about this. I don't personally see the connection. I'm not going to say that they're wrong because I'm not sitting in their seat. But that's one. The other piece to this is, again, for a lot of schools, or a lot of those type of Power Four schools, top 25 schools, it's less about, and this is what he told me, it's less about recruiting and it's more about roster management. And so the $100,000 that you're giving to the junior in high school, or offering the junior in high school for rev share or whatever, and then that athlete shows up and transfers after a year, they don't want that anymore. And so there's really no other quote unquote professional sport that offers a contract 18 months ahead before you get there. And that's where we are allegedly going and trying to go with, especially this level of volleyball. Not for everybody, but for a lot of those coaches, it comes down to roster management. So
Yeah,
thoughts,
I will say this.
questions?
Yeah,
Go, Brandon.
sorry. I recently had conversations because there was a coach's conference call, I think a couple weeks ago, and it sounded very disoriented in the sense that it sounded like there was a lot of your sentiments where the top 20 schools, this is kind of where they had to go, and everybody else had to get on board because of that. And so, and again, I don't know this for a fact, so please don't, people shouldn't be upset, but I heard from multiple coaches in the Power Four and mid majors that were like, wait, where did this come from? And as you kind of go up the chain, you start to realize who it's benefiting, and that's fine. You see that in other sports. I do believe that there is some value in this sport taking it in a direction that is going to be more beneficial for the ones that are on TV and things like that, and everybody else kind of gets more as they go with it. But the bad part, or the part that I think everybody should take a pause with, and Taylor and Michelle probably can speak to this, is we've switched rules so much in the last 10, 15, 20 years that it's like, oh my gosh, we're doing this again, and it feels like instead of sticking with something for a little bit longer, we're just going to change it again. And so uh, it's confusing to the consumer, it's confusing to coaches. And I've always said this, whatever we decide as coaches, we'll figure it out, and we'll figure it out very quickly. Like, we're paid to figure this out. So, it's like, oh, I don't know what we're going to do. Trust me, the coaches will know what to do. Unfortunately, the consumers are just sitting there like, wait, what? How did this get changed? Wasn't this rule, just 2 years ago? You're like, yeah, but we're going to change it again. Think about it. When June 15th came about for the first time, all of us were like, wait, what? And then we went through it. We figured it out. It's, you can say whatever you want to say about it. It's working. It's not working,
We got better
So,
at it, for sure.
yeah,
I think.
no doubt.
Closed a lot of loopholes
I'd love
at
to hear
least.
what the girls say about that.
Yes. What were you gonna say, Michelle?
Well, I was saying for June 15th from 10 years ago, definitely got better because a lot of loopholes were closed. A lot of gray area. I mean, there's still a lot of gray area, but a lot of those loopholes, because I mean, what we were committed freshmen, even though June 15th was a contact, it was just a suggestion at that point. But for me, my opinion on this is it's obviously coming from the top, and I get it for roster management, I get it money wise, but those top 25 schools are going to get the kids that they want regardless of when this contact date is. And it hurts mid majors and other schools.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like with June 15th, the top schools are still getting the kids they want. And if it's like, well, we want to get to know them, so let's give us 2 months. Well, all we figured this out, right? All the gray area. We know these kids before June 15th. Like, we're talking to Jason, we're talking to other coaches, we're at your court, we're in your gym. We know more about you than you think going into June 15th. And now there's still going to be all this gray area stuff where, like, I'm sure there's going to be like secret, like, I can't offer you, but like, I'm going to offer you on May 1st. Like, it's still going to happen. And then, like Brandon said, with all these rule changes, like, we wanted to get to know kids before June 15th. So we had questionnaires. Let's get to know them. Let's ask these questionnaires. And then that got canceled. Because people, gray area, people are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and now we can't get to know these kids anymore. So then they get rid of that. So there's always going to be like some kind of loophole or some kind of gray area, and that I see like big picture what they're trying to do, but I think there's still we're gonna run into the same problems that we have right now, just a year later.
Yep.
No, and one of my worst fears for any athlete with this, the way this is set up, and it's going to be something similar to this. I don't know if it'll be exactly this, but this is kind of the model that I've talked to other coaches about. Like, the school that says in that first phone call, or even on a visit, hey, we're going to offer you on May 1st, and like, you're our number one, right? And so then that athlete doesn't do anything else, right? Like, this is, again, I talked about like this recruiting cycle that I've watched for the last 10 years now, being on this side. The athletes that hang on to that camp invite from Baylor, the athletes that hang on from that to that the handwritten letter from Arkansas, right? And just they hold really, really tightly to that thing, hoping that that school is going to call them, and they ignore everyone else, and they ignore all the other signs that those schools aren't interested, and they hang on to it. And so that's still going to happen, because that's, regardless of whether they're getting on the phone with you now or not. Like, that athlete that hears, hey, you're on number one, we're going to offer you, and now they don't go on any other visits, and then that school doesn't call, right? Or they don't offer, or something happened in the last 2 months. I just, that's like my worst fear. And I know those are going to be outliers, right? But I still, those types of situations that we're talking about, those are the things that I hate. So
I will say this, one of the things that I find very interesting is, and again, comparing ourselves to men's and women's basketball is not where we want to go, but it felt like men's and women's basketball really figured this out with the limited, they said, hey, we don't want to go out as much and things like that. And they figured it out and they created these very small windows that you could. And then, so it's odd to me that we are trying to, and I get it. Hey, volleyball wants to do their own thing, but it just, I think for me, it would have been like, why don't we just take this same model?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've the people that have asked me my opinion on this, I've given it. I've even written it and like given my reasoning for everything. Obviously, but I think we're doing things from two different perspectives, right? Like part of the issue is I'm talking about top 10 athletes to 330 RPI school athletes, Division 3 athletes. Like I'm talking about everybody. Like what's going to benefit all the athletes, and we're talking about what's going to benefit the top 15, 20 schools. And one of my biggest sort of thoughts that goes in my head is if this is the best way to do this recruiting process, then why aren't we doing it now? Right? Like and I hate saying it this way, but like, we're legislating our morality, right? Like because we're not keeping rules and because we're not doing the things that we're supposed to do, we're trying to legislate the best way to do the recruiting process instead of just doing it the best way. Like if this is the best way, none of the schools that are pushing for this legislation are actually doing it this way. And so we're creating the boundaries and the structure for us to do the recruit. And that just, I don't, I can't buy into that. You know what I mean? Like if it's the best way to do it, then it's the best way to do it, regardless of what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. If the best way is to do it this way, then let's do it that way. And I don't see this being mirrored by anybody. So except for maybe Division 3 schools. They're the only ones doing it this way. So
Feel like they could have adapted June 15th, like plugged in some of this stuff into what we have for June 15th. Like, okay, contact date's still June 15th, but you can take your visits in, I don't know, September, October while we have a home game or something, and then December 1st is when we can start making offers. Or I'm just spitballing here. I just feel like they could have adapted onto what we already had to make it better if that's what they're trying to do instead of just recreating this completely.
yeah, because
I'll
I'm
say this: the coaches are not in total agreement on this, and they are confused. And so, and again, I get that part happens often, but what I'm saying is they've been working on this for a good bit of time, and the conversation that I had with many coaches is like, wait, where did this come from? Like, I thought we were doing this and now we're doing this. And it's like, it's so far ranging that everybody's kind of looking around like, this is the first I've heard of it. And so I think that was kind of shocking for a lot of coaches.
Well, and I think too, because we're talking about no camps, no third party camps. We're talking about what was the other thing that was a big deal for me? Like there's verbal commitments don't exist in the NCAA rulebook, and so I think we're verbal commitments and verbal offers don't exist in the NCAA rulebook, and so we're creating legislation that doesn't exist with these new rules, like that you can't make a verbal offer when there's no guidelines for that to begin with, and I what in talking to I think it was Jill when she was at LSU. She's not there now, but I think they are trying to recreate the entire calendar all at once and take all and so instead of like, okay, we're going to change contact date and then 6 months later we're going to change transfer and then 6 months later we're going to change 80 days to 75 or 80 to 100 or whatever. Like they're trying to do it all at once in one just massive swoop, which I think is probably what you're talking about, Brandon, creates a little bit of the confusion.
Yeah, it's like putting a tournament schedule together, whether it's in club or college or whatnot. Is like three of the four things fit, and then that last piece doesn't. But I'm so tired of dealing with all of it, so let's just do it, you know.
Yep.
And so,
Square peg and round hole.
it, yeah, it's really tricky. And again, for me, as this was coming about towards the end of my career, it was so in 25 years, you can imagine how many different iterations of recruiting rules, we went through. And every time, you know, it was a huge ordeal, but, and Taylor and Michelle mentioned this, like the coaches figured it out and,
Figured it
and,
out. Yep.
and figured it out very quickly. And so I think less is more, like less restrictions on things. I don't know if you've mentioned this, and forgive me if I'm talking about this, but obviously with July becoming more and more prevalent of where it's going, it's going to be interesting because you're going to be coaching your teams and then trying to recruit or camps or whatever all at the same time. So, I do believe July will happen and will happen very soon, maybe even next year. So it will be even more interesting because now all of a sudden you have practices in July while you're still having to
Still
go
recruiting.
to nationals. Yeah, you're doing recruiting. It's like, so
And I hate to bring this up, but living in the college coach world for so long, like coaches already have 0 days off. And May was kind of like the 1 month where it's like maybe I can, be with my family or like have a vacation. And now it's like, man, this is a really important month. And now our only like dead period or quiet period is because we're with our team now. And so that there's just like no time for college coaches to even take a second and breathe. So I'm sure that's, going in the back of heads of some of these college coaches too, where it's like, man, this is a lot.
Yeah. You're like because if now if you're it's basically what we do now on the club side. It feels like, right? Like you go from
you're
these
talking
girls
about
go
with
from
tryouts.
yeah,
Yeah.
at least in Texas, right? They go from one team to the next the day after nationals, and then they're on their new team. Like there were some athletes posting some practice video that they're having with next year's team, like 2 days before their midnight run for their high school, right? Like it's just it's all the time. It's nonstop. Um, there was something that I was reminded of that you were talking about, Brandon, and it's part of I forget what it was. Maybe it'll come to me. There was something I was wanting to mention but hadn't yet.
It will be interesting because I do believe what I saw as a coach is the burnout or injuries, from freshmen is a
Yeah.
real thing. And nobody's to blame. I'm not saying it's the clubs or it's the high schools. I just think that, for probably 7, 8 years, these kids have gone pretty much all year round, and then they get thrown into the collegiate scene, which all of us would agree is just that much more intense. Um, the physicality piece, yes, but the mental piece is just, and so you're in your first month of collegiate athletics, and something you've been looking forward to, and all of a sudden you're like experience real injuries or real strain mentally, and you're like, it's survival. Your freshman year, or I guess even more succinctly, your freshman fall is just holding on to this rope, and it's like water skiing, like you're just holding on, and so um and it's so hard because the college coaches are like, gosh, I would love for this person to be a little bit more active in practice, but we're having to limit her even before we don't even know what she's capable of, and so it's really tricky. And I don't see an end to it because the cycle just keeps, before it was like, oh, there's a handful of teams, clubs, working out in December. And now almost everybody is working out in December, you know?
If you're
And for
not
the
playing
states,
if you're not playing in the playoffs, you're practicing with your
right,
team. Yeah.
right. And so it's going to creep into November, because a good bit of states are getting done at the end of October. So, you know, now all of a sudden it's 2 months worth of work. And again, it's how do we balance Thanksgiving break? How do we balance Christmas break? How do we balance the New Year break? It's like, okay, it's optional. Not really, but it's optional. And kind of back to what Taylor is saying is now the portal for college coaches are in December and January, and that's busier than it's ever been before. And just imagine trying to get kids in when the rest of the university is taking their break. I mean, I've always said that if you have not had conversations with housing, admissions, and things like that leading into the portal opening, you're screwed. And if you're one of these schools, um, that starts like January 6th, I mean, you can imagine. I mean, universities shut down from December 15th to January 1st. So you have maybe, depending on where the week falls, let's say the third and fourth or, a Saturday and Sunday, you have the fifth and hopefully the sixth, to do all these things if you haven't done the work ahead of time. And so it's really tricky. And then you get them there and it's like, okay, now I have a deep breath, but you don't.
Well, and those used to be the breaks that were put in for college coaches, right? Was December and then May. And now with the portal windows being there and with this calendar, what you said, like there's not a break. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's probably the biggest surprise to me. Like maybe January is a quiet period, but um I think that's the biggest one of the bigger surprises to me is that they didn't create a break in this calendar for themselves. Especially like you said, Brandon, with July, with like student athletes coming on campus in July at some point in the next couple of years, there's no break. So
Remember, for years, that was the main conversation was a break for the coaches, college coaches. You know, even in some regards, I don't agree with, or I never agreed with it. This whole we can't go out during the week in the month of March. It was like, that was like almost trying to create a break, but not really, and it felt awkward.
yeah,
That's why I
I was
said
I
I think the basketball model is there. It's like, okay, here are the 6 weekends that you recruit, and after that, you can't be out. So
period.
then you
End of
had
story.
those. So yeah, you don't have to count days. It's like these 6 weekends. That's it. Period. And I think the truth be told, the way I feel about tournaments, specifically nationals or AUs and things like that, it's just another tournament. It's not what it used to be. And so I spent more time going just one day or 1.5 days where I used to spend going 3 days to a tournament. It's like, guys, it just feels like the same thing. So, you know, fly in, fly out, and you'll see them at the next one.
Hopefully, hopefully. What's okay?
Yes.
What's one thing that you guys do like about this proposed calendar? Each of you, one positive takeaway, and then if we don't have any other questions, then we can be done.
I
I
think
know it might be.
later is smart. I think that's like going back to what I said before, like we're just banking on potential for these kids.
Yeah,
And you hope that they reach that potential in the next 2 years. You hope that they don't slack off when they commit June 15th. Now they have 2 more club years. So later I think is good. It helps with the roster management with all the transfer portals and everything like that. Closer to the signing day, I think is the idea is there.
okay. Michelle. Is there anything? Anything? I knew it was gonna be hard.
I guess I like that they put sort of a timeline on this is when you can come instead of it being all year. Kind of going back to the coaching thing, what Brandon said, you have 6 weekends that you get to go recruit. For the athletes, you have 6 weeks. And this is when you can come on visits. I like the idea of that. I feel like I'll stop there. That's my positive. That's what I got.
I to your point, that's one of my like I'm glad that we're attempting to do visits again. Um, I mean, hopefully it works out that way. But I said to several college coaches like will be I'll be encouraged if we're doing visits again because I think that's one of the biggest things that we got wrong with June 15th was taking away visits. I know some people still did them, but
Yeah.
for the most part, no.
I mean, they're talking about, building the relationship first, so this is a great way to do that. And with that gone, we're kind of losing that relationship aspect. So yeah, I do think that is a positive, and I like that there is a timeline of these are the 2 months you're allowed or you can do this.
I felt like when I was coaching, even Division two, from January till the summer, till club season was over, we probably, if we didn't have an athlete on campus that week for a visit, that was like a surprise.
Right.
Like we always had athletes on campus. Some we really, really wanted on campus. Some we were trying to get to campus, and others were just like, "Hey, we want to come visit campus." Great, come hang out with the team, watch practice. We'll walk you around. Like we can do all that stuff. I think that was a huge benefit for athletes, and like I know for us, we weren't getting all of those athletes that came on a visit, but if we treated them well and we let them interact with the team, let them watch a practice, go eat lunch with them. Like if we did all of those things, then they go back and tell their friends, "Hey, we had a great visit at this school. They were super nice to us. The girls were great," right? They're telling all their friends, then maybe we get one of their friends, right? Like that's how you just going back to the third party camp thing with Brandon, like that's how you get the opportunities as a mid-major division one or as a division two school is you bring athletes on campus. So
Yeah.
Brandon, what's your one positive? You might have more than one, but at least one.
No, I think the positive it kind of builds off what Taylor was saying, and I think now colleges, especially, gosh, you don't even know what. I mean, what just came about last week is like you don't even know your roster, and all of a sudden, I feel bad for the high school kids or the club kids because they're being drugged down this road of this is a possibility, this could be, it's like. So the later it is, the more truthful college coaches are going to have to be because there's going to be more information that's solidified for them. And maybe truthful is not the right word. It is to some extent. I just think that the club kids are so much more empowered with information, and they were asking really good questions as far as roster construction and things like that, that colleges were really put to the test of like, hey, if you're not going to be real and truthful and honest with people, it's going to come back and haunt you. And we saw that happen. And now I think so. I think the positive is you're going to have later commitments or whatever you want to call it. And coaches are going to know more about what they have currently than they did, right
That's
now.
funny.
Because think about it, you have let's call it 2 years before a kid that commits on June 15th or thereabout. I mean, think about what can happen. The transfer portal, obviously, but now even more so a fifth year that we didn't even know was going to be a thing. So this kid commits on June 15th and then find out, like, let's say it's an outside hitting position. Hey, I believe, or the information that I learned is they're going to have 5 outside hitters. Now, 2 years later, there's 8. And they're like, 8? okay, so I was one of five, now I'm one of eight. Um, that's hard, and kids aren't going to want to just change their commitment because obviously, they're way more optimistic, you know, because they've never been in a college gym, so they don't necessarily know what it's going to be like. But the truth is, you go one of five and now one of eight. You're like, wow, okay. So then
Big difference.
It puts them in a cycle of, okay, hey, you know, the writing's on the wall in semester one. And Jason, you and I have talked about this. Like, kids transferring after semester one is really a challenge, because they haven't been there long enough. But are they really default? Because they were one of five 2 years ago. Now they're one of eight. So why waste any more time?
That's been my uh, whatever push I have, which is very little. But like, if the transfer window is not in December, if we only have one transfer window, and that transfer window is in May, let's say, or at least after the first semester, I think you would see fewer athletes in the portal. And if that's the actual goal, like I think that would be a real thing, because for all the reasons we said, like, you're a freshman, you're not playing, which means you're not getting as many reps, right? Like, you're not used to it. You played all through club, all through high school. Now all of a sudden you're not getting reps because the 21-year-old is playing over you, and that's just how it is. Like, that's just you're competing for a spot with someone that's 4 years older than you, and that doesn't always happen. Well, once that person leaves in November or December, and you come back to the spring in January, now all of a sudden in the coach's head, they're like, okay, this is our next starting outside hitter or setter or libero, and now I'm time, energy, effort into that person, and I get to do that in the spring, and I don't necessarily get to do that in the fall, right or wrong, right? But that's just typical. I think we would have fewer athletes transfer if that first window in December wasn't there. I'm probably the only person who thinks that, but that's just my opinion.
Jason, I love the 21-year-old. I mean, in reality, it's not even 21. It's 22, 23
23.
year olds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And some, we're all laughing, but I mean, that's the reality of what there's going to be 24-year-olds. And so when you're talking about an 18 versus let's say 23-year-old
Big difference.
female,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and again, Taylor, Michelle, you guys could talk about it. You're talking about girl versus woman, And again, I get it. The whole 18-year-old, you're a woman. But I mean, just strength, development, mental capacity.
Yeah. And you're used to
That's
it.
wild to me.
You're used to it at that point. You've been there for 4 years. You know what to expect in the summer and the fall and the spring. So,
And that's
I
and
mean,
I've
just think about
I was just gonna say, like, being there, being at a school for a year makes you typically is gonna make you better than every incoming freshman. Like, there's always a massive gap for incoming freshmen. Not everyone, right? Like, not every single incoming freshman, but for most incoming freshmen, there's a pretty big gap between them and the athletes that have been training for an entire year. Um, yeah, that's and that's it's why SMU was successful, because they've got five starting 23-year-olds and a freshman or a sophomore, right? Like, that's at least for the first couple of years that they were cranking, and they're still really good, obviously, and no fault to them. But when your starting lineup is five grad transfers, like, you're just going to be a little bit bigger and stronger than everybody else. Nothing wrong with that.
And they got the money.
gotcha.
Yeah, but the money is what helps you get the 22, 23-year-old, right? So yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
quick
I
funny
mean,
story going off this like later recruiting thing. When I was still in college coaching in this past January, my boss he was on the phone with the recruiting service, and he was like, he got off the phone. He's like, I can't believe this person just asked me what I need in 2029. He was like, I don't even have my roster set for spring of 26. How does it know what I need in 2029? Like, things are just changing so much that he's like, I need to focus on this spring before I'm thinking about fall in 3 years from now.
Yeah, because we used to be able to, like, 12 scholarships. We're offering kids when they're freshmen. They're committing when they're sophomores. I've got my spreadsheet of what my roster looks like for the next 8, 9 years. And you just can't do that anymore because at least one person out of every class is going to transfer, if not more. Yeah, different time.
Yeah. We should go
Okay.
back to that.
The
It was
toothpaste
it
is out
was
of the tube.
the good old days. I reminisce every once in a while.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Any
What
final?
was the transfer portal? Wasn't even a thing.
Wasn't even a thing. Yeah. I mean, I never
It was
had
there.
money available for portal for like transfer kids that were transferring. Never had scholarship available for transfers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
to give you an idea, Michelle, this is, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago, there was a lot of information about what was happening in college basketball. And at the time, men's college basketball had just surpassed the 50% mark, meaning 50% of the athletes were going to be in the transfer portal. So every sport was kind of taking a look at what they
Uh-huh.
were. I remember um, like we were just cresting over, I think 12%.
Yeah.
So here is men's basketball at 50%, and
Hmm.
everybody, was asking, hey, what is it going to be like for volleyball? I was like, well, we're only at 12%. And
Right.
it became such a, like oh, okay, well, that's maybe the way we want college athletics, whereas basketball was like, hey, that's fine, but we're going to do our own thing. And, volleyball was still pretty much, we're keeping our athletes for 4 years.
Right. Yeah, I remember I had thought about transferring and in my head I was like, I don't even know where to go or who to talk to. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do any of this. And now it's like you press a button and you're in the portal. I mean, I know it's more complicated than that, but you see so many
it's
athletes now and like
it's
eight
not
years
much
ago
more
and that's
complicated than that.
yeah, obviously, but it's more accessible is what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and now I see all these athletes that transfer when I'm 15, 16, and I now it becomes an option.
mhm.
Because 10 years ago when I started doing this, I that was I almost never talked about transferring with a family. Like every once in a while, it would be like, well, if she doesn't like it, then she can transfer. And I was like, well, it's not super easy to transfer, right? And now almost like I don't want to say every family, but I would say majority of the families that we talk to now, it's a topic of conversation is going into the portal. And you guys have heard me say this, but like what I will always push in front of high school athletes is you see the athletes that transfer somewhere successfully and you see that on social media. What you don't see is the 200 athletes that go into the portal in December and then never play volleyball again. That's what you don't see. And that's something that we don't talk enough about, unfortunately. So
There's a dark side, and what I mean by that is exactly what you're saying is the grass is always greener, and then you get in there and you're like, oh, wow, and you can't go back, you know, so then it becomes this thing where what am I going to do? Um, then maybe it's just time to be done. And, you're talking about somebody that maybe just finished their freshman year and you're like, you know, it's scary. You know what I'm saying? And then to go through that cycle of being re-recruited and realizing there's just not maybe not a space that there was is really challenging.
Yeah.
but they get there 24 hours again, like you said.
I mean, everybody kind of chuckles, but I mean, it's a real thing. This whole 24-hour, what I call 24 hours on Instagram, because families are like, they love that idea, but then they go through that process and it's wild. You truly get 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's good to be pursued again, right? Like just like I said, a lot of these athletes going into the portal don't feel like that they're a part of the team. They don't feel like they're being pursued by their coach. They don't they're not contributing in whatever way, right? And so the going into the portal, and then all of a sudden they get 25 emails. That that's sometimes positive. So it's understandable in our current situation why people want to transfer. So, okay, anything else, guys? Any closing thoughts? Okay. Well, like I said, everything we
I'm
talked
excited
about.
for the season.
Oh, yeah. Fall starting.
Yeah. We've gotten through the gear, all the gear videos.
The Christmas videos.
Yeah. I'll never understand the shoe to your ear, like it's a telephone thing. It sounds so silly, but when we got the footage on your gear reveal, I always told our marketing person or our video person, please do not put any piece where they're putting the shoe to their ear. I never, who,
What is
I
that?
mean, who does that? Yeah, what is that? Exactly. But everybody does it.
No idea. No idea.
I
Nice.
guarantee you today you'll see a gear video where
It's
somebody
gonna
does that.
stand out to me now. It's gonna stand out to
Oh
me now.
yeah, I'll send you one.
Please do.
I'm just gonna post one on Instagram. Just gonna be like, hey guys, what's up?
Shoot.
My shoe.
12,000 likes. 12,000 likes.
Be like, my cool boss sent me these new shoes.
Yeah. Except he didn't.
Except for who doesn't. He doesn't do that.
He doesn't. Yeah,
We
no.
can
No.
talk about that later.
Your boss is lame. Sorry. Well, hey, thank you guys for hopping on. Brandon, thanks for hopping on with us and chatting with
Anytime.
us and giving us your insight. Proposed rule changes again. When are these going to go into effect? Have no idea. 29 class, 30 class, who's going to be impacted? We don't know. That's something we'll talk about later. But yeah, if you guys are watching, if you have any other questions, shoot us a message. This is going to be a topic over the fall as I hear more information from college coaches that will keep coming up, I'm sure. But again, these aren't for sure anything that's happening, just proposed. Some makeup of these rules that we've been talking about for the last hour are going to happen. So for the 29 and 30 class, just heads up. So, well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time. And we'll do it again.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.